Peace and wholeness, family. Rafael Flatplane back here with another one. Shout out to all the family out there. Thank you guys for coming to another video. I appreciate it. In this video, I want to talk about, again, the CDC, who is literally guiding the nation with the coronavirus task force, is once again on their trials and tribulations of doing fishy things. And once again, now they remove one of their guidances. As every week, we get a change in the guidance with the quote-unquote coronavirus. Now, this came out earlier, yesterday, I believe. So let's just jump right in. CDC abruptly removes new guidance on coronavirus airborne transmission. Now, we were taught that the virus can linger within a 6 feet radius and linger in the air for up to 15 minutes. Now, new guidances are telling us that speaking the English language now spreads more of the virus, and I covered that in a previous video. They've come out that singing in a choir or singing just in general spreads more of the virus. That's what the CDC said. So, which is it? Now let's continue reading. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said Monday that it made a mistake when it posted new guidance online citing growing evidence that COVID-19 is airborne. Well, isn't that why we're social distancing and keeping 6 feet apart? Because it's airborne? That's what we were told, wasn't that? Sending health experts and the public scrambling to determine if schools and business should rethink mitigation steps to prevent the spread of the virus. The misstep is one of the several in recent weeks in which the CDC has left the public scratching its head. Yet, the CDC is the main driver for our medical mafia, which is what I call them, the medical mafia, in which they're following their guidelines at hospitals. Yet the CDC can't get the information right themselves. Yet you have a conversation with somebody and they say, well, my doctor knows best. And I tell people, well, your doctor gets media information because the CDC cannot get their information correct. So who is actually following proper protocols in hospitals? I got another question. Where are all the deaths? We quarantined and people were dying, quote unquote, at imaginable rates. We're not quarantined anymore. Where are the deaths? But let's keep reading. Since July, the agency has flip-flopped on its guidance on testing people who don't show symptoms, finally settling on the recommendation that it's a good idea. Critics of the Trump administration say too much politics is at play and that the agency's wavering is undermining its credibility with the public. Now, what did Trump do? Again, remember, people, I'm not a Trump supporter. But what did Trump do? He dropped the WHO. Who does the WHO work with? Johns Hopkins and the CDC. And look at what the CDC is doing. So who's got the right information? Who's actually giving us the guidelines that we follow today? I know, the politicians. Bill Gates. Those who have money at stake here. Those who are playing with mine and your lives. Extorting us for our money. Extorting us for our time. Let's keep reading. A draft version of proposed changes to these recommendations was posted in error to the agency's official website. Now, during a pandemic, Why would you post something in error that could be detrimental to the people? And you're supposed to be on the coronavirus task force. CDC is currently updating its recommendations regarding airborne transmission of SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID-19. Once this process has been completed, the update language will be posted. How long the virus lingers in the air, they told us 15 minutes, and how far it travels after someone sneezes or coughs have been the subject of much speculation since the beginning of the pandemic. But they put us in a 6 feet radius and put a muzzle on your face so you cannot breathe and quote unquote project anything. Even if you're asymptomatic, you're not spreading anything, you're not coughing, you're not sneezing, you still have to wear it. And what did Dr. Fauci tell us that I showed on my other channel, Rafael Flatplane Live, and I showed in a previous video that asymptomatic people are not, N-O-T, not the driver of a disease. You take that how you want, people. On Friday, the CDC quietly updated a page on its website on how the virus spreads. There is a growing evidence that droplets and airborne particles can remain suspended in the air and breathed in by others, and travel distances beyond 6 feet. Here we go. Now they're going to start saying beyond 6 feet. How far will they take this to keep dividing us, to keep us from having human interactions? For example, during choir practice, in restaurants, or in fitness classes. Wow. In general, indoor environments without good ventilation increase the risk, the CDC stated on Friday in a post that has since been taken down. So they didn't let people go to church. They don't let people congregate in more than 10 people or more. You have to be 6 feet in social distancing. We had restaurants closed down, gyms closed down, and now they retract that information. Yet, places are still only operating from 50 to 25% capacity. People are still out of work because they're still probably not deemed essential, or their business has closed down because they lost their money due to these guidelines. These guidelines that were pushed by politicians decimated a lot of people. Yet they're being retracted. Is there any money going to be given to the people who had to follow these guidelines and lost everything? Is there money being given back to them? But you can just retract your statement and keep it pushing. That assessment raised serious questions about whether such practices as attending school or dining indoors were safe, because people might remove their mask if there is enough social distance. School districts have long been sounding the alarm on the lack of ventilation, including old buildings and windows that won't open. But soon after the CDC change was noticed by media outlets, the CDC removed the posting. It remains unclear what CDC might post, if anything, on the matter. The White House Task Force on Coronavirus stopped holding regular briefings on the pandemic, and CDC does not host press conferences. And that's true. We were hit daily, not even daily, every minute of the day with the COVID propaganda going down our fucking throats. Every fucking second we were getting hit with this shit. Why? To fearmonger. So that you can practice these failed guidelines. The White House had no comment on the unexplained CDC action. President Donald Trump has publicly challenged on the CDC's finding on the virus, oftentimes refusing to wear a mask and pressing the agency to reframe its guidance on schools to favor reopening. In recent months, the White House installed a press secretary at the Health and Human Services who frequently disparaged CDC researchers. And that's what we need to do, people, is barrage these CDC people because they're fucking retarded. These are the people that we're letting run our lives. This asshole of a Redfield, we've been following their guidances, but yet they're wrong. The CDC caused alarm last August when it released guidance suggesting people didn't necessarily need to get tested for the virus, even if they were exposed. Yet, testing sites were coming up all over. All you heard was testing. I live here in New York City, where I got Governor fucking Cuomo, fucking Domo, stupid fuck. And I made a video on him where he just, in all his interviews, just, we have to get tested. People need to get tested. We need the test. We have to go to testing. We need to make the testing sites. People should be at testing sites. Test. Why? I didn't prove, I showed where in a video where the PCR test that we use is meaningless. Those weren't my words. It wasn't my research, but I showed the research given for it. Let's keep going. The agency last week walked that back and returned to its guidance from early in the summer that anyone who has been exposed needs to be tested. The constant back and forth. Trump last week insisted the agency's director, Robert Redfield, made a mistake. Haven't they been consistently making mistakes? That's their most consistent action, is a mistake. When he predicted that most Americans wouldn't have access to a vaccine. And that's the big pusher, the vaccine. That's what they want you to have, is that vaccine, until the middle of next year. But Fauci said by October, November, we'll have a vaccine. And what's in November? The election. And what they want you to do, vote or die? Yeah, kiss my ass with that shit. Redfield's spokesman initially issued a statement that appeared to realign himself with the president, but then retracted the statement, leaving it unclear whether Redfield agreed with the president. According to Dr. Fauci, who has addressed the matter in recent weeks, the virus is believed to spread both through droplets by talking, sneezing, or coughing. But that's from people with fucking symptoms. How many people are asymptomatic, not showing symptoms, that have to social distance and wear a fucking mask, that are not sneezing, that are not coughing, that are nothing, that are fucking fine? I'm sorry I'm turning up, people, but this shit angers me. In a recent JAMA interview, Fauci, the nation's top infectious disease expert and part of the coronavirus task force, so he's part of these fucking mistakes, but nobody's saying anything, right? Said the degree of aerosolization is still being researched, but I still have to be 6 feet away from you. I still have to wear a mask. We need to pay a little more attention now to the recirculation of air indoors, he said. Now, I'm going to jump into this document that I went over the other day. CDC updates again. Now, this one is from the 21st. Right? 21st. 2020. September 21st, 2020. This is from Friday, the 18th. The U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention's website has updated yet again, and they just updated again within 3 days. Yet again, guidelines for testing people who do not have symptoms of coronavirus. The new language rolls back controversial changes made to the site last month, and once again stresses that anyone who has been in contact with an infected person should be tested for coronavirus. Due to the significance of asymptomatic and pre-symptomatic transmission, this guidance further reinforces the need to test asymptomatic persons, including close contacts of a person with documented SARS-CoV-2 infection. So, if you don't show symptoms, you haven't been around anybody who has been documented as infected, but yet you got to social distance, wear a mask, and now they want you to get tested. Before it was no test. No, before it was testing. Then is if you haven't been exposed, don't get tested. Now is get tested. So which one is it, CDC? Which one is it, Dr. Fauci? Which one is it, Redfield? Which one is it, Coronavirus Task Force? Where are you leading the people? Because we know this virus is not what we're told. We know there's something sinister going on behind this. We've been breaking it down. We've been tracking the money. We know Bill Gates is not a doctor, but yet you treat him as so. We know AstraZeneca's trials are going really, really bad. What about the other vaccine companies? How come they're only putting the focus on AstraZeneca? They're putting our attention just solely to them. But don't they all get money from Bill Gates? Aren't they all following the mRNA type vaccine? Genetically modified vaccines? Because that's the final countdown, is until you get that vaccine. And in a previous video, I showed where Trump said by April, everyone will be vaccinated. And he already told us how he will bring the vaccine with force, with the military. Will you refuse a vaccine with a tank at your front door? I will. I will stand in front of that tank and refuse the vaccine. Peace and wholeness, family. Y'all be safe and much love.